A writing coach from Niverville says people need to turn down the voice of their inner critic. In a recent blog post, he shared the value of seeking imperfection in writing and how perfectionism is a killer of creativity. Trevor Martins is the founder of I Help You Write Things, and he joins me now. Good morning, Trevor.
Hey, good morning, Nadia. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. I think so many people can relate to this idea of seeking perfection, even if they're not a writer. So I think lots of people will be able to kind of extrapolate lessons from this conversation. First of all, Trevor, why did you decide to write a blog post about this?
Well, it's the mindset piece when it comes to writing is something that I recognized was important right when I kind of got into the gig a few years ago. There's a lot of talented writers out there, and I've worked with over 100 of them, and yet I haven't found one that couldn't write a book, but I found a whole ton that haven't. And that's when I put it together. I'm like, well, you know what? This is actually not a technique thing and not a skill gap. There's something else going on. And perfectionism is absolutely one of the big ones, I would say.
So tell us more about what you define in this context as perfectionism.
Great question. I think we all deal with an inner critic on some level, like someone that's it's almost like a voice that's working against us or trying to get us to play small. And I would put perfectionism in its bag of tricks. But perfectionism, essentially, when we see it show up in writers especially, and us in other ways, shows up when we have an expectation that our work has to meet a certain standard, or maybe more specifically, someone's standard. It's this idea that if my work has flaw or failure, then it's no good. And if my work is no good, then I'm no good. And there's a really a pretty malicious root that gets tied in with perfectionism. But it's tough because a lot of us, I know a lot of people, like I was a teacher for 16 years. I know a lot of people that got where they got because of perfectionism. You know, like there's a lot of whip marks on the back, and it's all self-done. And so it's a survival tactic in some ways. You know, it pushes us to a certain standard. Like I get its functionality, but I also know that there's another way you can go about things. And then when it comes to creativity, though, especially, perfectionism doesn't seem to, it's like oil and water. It really doesn't work very well.
You talk about perfectionism being a killer. Why did you use that language?
Yeah, it kills dreams. Like just 100%, you know? If we're sitting there thinking we've got to be something else to be okay, you know, we've got to get to a certain level, we've got to get to a certain standard, we've got to get to something that's perfect, which we know is impossible. We're kind of always going to be chasing that, and we're never going to be able to sit there and feel like, oh no, actually I'm okay as I am. I'm growing. I'm reaching for something new. And so when it comes to dreams, like something that, you know, it's funny, Nadia, like as I work with writers, a lot of them will come into my group and they'll start writing, and I realize they like taking the step, they like the feeling, but then I ask them, like, so where do you want to go with this? And right away it's like they just put a lid on it. They're like, oh well, just for friends, and you know, who knows, maybe one day a book. And I realize, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's almost like the kid who touched the hot stove, you know, like maybe we reach for something once and we don't quite hit that dream, and the pain of falling short of it is so strong that we just stop reaching. And so perfectionism's a killer because, like, all you're doing is finding ways that you're not perfect or not ready yet. You know, you're trying to be perfect, so your radar is just looking for anything that isn't great about yourself, and it shuts you down. It makes it almost impossible to reach, I would say.
Tell me more about the inner critic.
Okay. It's funny. All these things that I'm talking about, and like for all of us as people too, there's things that we believe in life, and I would start off just by giving a perspective, this is what my perspective will be on the inner critic as well. Mm-hmm. But we all tell ourselves stories about what's true and what's not. And really, we're the arbiters of our own truth. It's like, no, I believe this. And sometimes we choose what we believe about ourselves and our capabilities and others. Other times it gets indoctrinated and we just pick it up and assume it's truth. But the truth is that we all get to choose what's true. And so when it comes to the inner critic, I'm going to tell you a story. And is it true or not? I don't know. But it seems to play out this way. I believe that the inner critic is, if you wanted to go big picture, it's like the resistance in this world. Like they say that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. For me, the inner critic seems to show up around that which matters most to us. I've never criticized the way I do laundry. I've never criticized the way I've like made scrambled eggs because I'm like, see, I can get it in my body like this. But the inner critic, that voice that gives us every reason not to step forward. You're not ready yet. You're not good enough. Compare yourself to that person. You're nothing like that person. Who are you to do this? Like, you are so egotistical to get this way. Like, its voice, we all know it's a voice. And it's only showing up, yeah, like I said, when something really matters. And with writers, I don't know what it is about creation or creative acts and self-expression. Like, you really have to like think that you're worthy to write your words and put them into the world and be like, I think my words have something of value. And so I think that there's that's such a powerful process. I think that's one of the reasons why it shows up the most. Now, like, is that evil in the world? Is that Stephen Pressfield's resistance? Is that just the physics? I don't know. I don't know why that is, but it does seem to be true that it only shows up when it matters.
I'm assuming, Trevor, that you are speaking from experience with all of this.
Of course.
So how did you come to a breakthrough with your inner critic?
I don't know that I could tell you the wave that hit the wall, but a lot of waves, a lot of work. Recognizing, for me, it started when I started to allow myself to have dreams again. When I went into education because I wanted to, if I look back and I'm honest, I played it safe. I had some very important mentors that were high school teachers. And I'm like, you know what? I want to do this for other people. But I knew I liked writing. I knew what I wanted to do. But but I played it safe. And I knew all the way through university. I knew on some level, even as I was teaching, that it's not what I, in my heart of hearts, wanted to do. But I looked at the idea of quitting teaching and giving up like a pension and benefits and summers off and to do my own thing and like do some sort of coaching business and write my own books. I looked at that as being as possible as winning the lottery. If I think about, man, I might win the lottery one day, that dream was in that space. And it was only when I started to allow myself to inch that dream closer and closer and look at my years ahead and be like, oh, if I'm going to start this thing, like, I don't want to start when I'm 90. It's fine if I do. I think that's awesome if you do. But I'm a stubborn individual. My wife will attest. And regrets kill me. And so the pressure of that with the things I was reading and kind of going through, I think that allowed me to slowly pull that dream into focus. And then, yeah, you take the leap once and you get burnt and it hurts. I quit thinking I could just like coach some people and people would be lining up for my writing groups and money wasn't going to be the issue. I would just be working on my writing. But oh my God, apparently being an entrepreneur, it's a lot of freaking work. So it's been a fun ride figuring that out. But you have to, if I wanted this, I knew I had to start facing the potential of failure and scraping my knees and getting back up and learning how to do that and still be a husband to my wife and a father to my kids who's not emotionally crumbled and crying and laying in a corner. So
what does that look like? Are you talking to your inner critic? Like, I'm assuming your inner critic is narrating all of this. What are you doing?
Yeah, great question. I'm the storyteller. We're all the storyteller. That inner critic's trying to tell me a story that I can hook onto and believe. But if I look at my heart of hearts, like Nadia, like you and I were talking at the beginning, you love to write too. When we have a dream, I don't know that we choose that dream. Like, I couldn't suddenly want to be a ballerina, like a ballet dancer. It's like, I'd love to have the physique and the ability to do that. I couldn't, that would never drive me. Like, the idea of writing and teaching and coaching drives me. So I take some solace in the fact that I didn't write that story for myself. It's there. I know it lights me up, and I know there's nothing else I want to do. And so I look at what the inner critic says. And the inner critic, if you talk to it long enough, it's always just trying to shut you down. Maybe it's to protect you from failure. Maybe it's got a noble obligation behind it. I call BS on it, but we can all look at it. It doesn't matter how you look at it. Yeah, sorry, I kind of ran off there.
That's, so you, how do you engage with that inner critic?
Yeah. So when I hear it coming up, I just ask myself, like, is this the same voices where my dream came from? Is this going to take me to my dream? Or is this going to make me play small and protect myself and never actually take a step towards my dream? Then I make the conscious choice. I choose the story. I hear them both. Then I just choose. And I think a lot of people, they don't know they can choose to ignore that voice. And what's really cool about that voice, though, here, this is a free gimme for everyone. If you're hearing that voice, it's a sign you're on the right track. It doesn't come up to stop you from doing mundane, useless things. If you've got important work or something that's important to you, and it's showing up, as soon as you hear it, what I love to do is like this is my first radio interview. I was excited to come here, but oh my God, was I nervous? But every time it came up, I'm like, wow. Looks like I got something that matters to me here. How exciting is that? And does it make the nerves go completely away? No. And that's okay. But when it shows up, it's like almost like a pat on the back, like, hey, look at you. How lucky are you? You have something that matters to you in your life right now. I think every one of us would at any time lop off an arm to have something that mattered to us in our life. And the inner critic, that's why I can't say it's protecting us, because it's keeping us from the thing that maybe lights us up the most in this world.
I think that's such a powerful reframe, an indicator for us, right? I do have a question, though, like as an editor, as a writing coach, how do you balance giving honest criticism, necessary criticism to your clients, while staying true to their own voice and wanting to encourage them to pursue their dreams?
Yeah, good question, and a bigger question. So let me get around this, because that's on a surface level. Anyone who's been in writing for a while or the creative arts would tell you that you can't be an editor and a creator at the same time. It's like you have it's a one-way street, and you can only let one type of traffic get on there. Or you can only wear one hat at a time. And so as a coach and a teacher, I'm very cognizant of that fact. But maybe, I don't know, would it make sense to talk about why you can't do both?
Please,
yeah. Okay. When we're in editor mode, we're in judgment mode, we're evaluation, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. We are actually talking about your producer being very good with words. At some point, we need to come in and cull and to shape our words and our story to see what it is that we're exactly making. It's like the final sculpting at that point. Very important process, and some people are extremely talented with that. You're judging and evaluating something that's never existed in the world before. When we're writing something new, even if it's a personal story, even if it's a memoir, these facts and these details have never been put together in this sequence before, ever. And so we're making something new. If we're sitting there and evaluating, one, who are we to evaluate? We don't know what's coming. Anyone who's gotten into a creative flow in writing, whether it's personal or fictional, knows that sometimes your characters are telling you what to say. Suddenly they're opening a door and jumping out a window. You're like, why did you do that? Well, let's just see. Like, there's a very unconscious aspect. You could call it your creative intuition. Is it the muse? Is it God? Is it the universe? I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. You're subconscious. Like, it doesn't matter. It's interesting. That starts to go. If in order to access that creativity, you have to be listening. And you have to want it too. So if I want to make a new scene, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to ask myself, like, okay, I wonder what my characters do next. And then I'm just going to wait. I'm going to listen. I'm going to wonder. I'm going to play with ideas. I might not even be typing. I might be doodling. I might be looking around and imagining. But what I'm doing is I'm asking. I'm not consciously creating. I'm a part of that process, but I'm asking. If I put on my editor hat and I start judging, how the heck can I ask and be wondrous and open for something and also be judging and telling what it is at the same time? It's technically impossible. I can't be curious and judgmental. And so it's a great question. Like, how the heck do you coach and teach people to be creative and then also be critical of the work? Well, it's a time and a place. And this is a great reframe that's, I think, has helped a lot of writers out. And so for me, Nadia, sorry, you asked me, I am always looking to honor the work. And then we'll talk about how the author's message can be shaped after that. But the author's message is the key thing. And for any writers out there, this is what I'd love to offer you, this reframe, another story that you can tell yourself, or another way you can look at your writing. When we are creating, creativity is an act of self-expression. The reader has nothing to do with it. It's a journal entry. A painting, a photo, a film, it's a journal entry for you. You know what excites you, what lights you up, what made you curious about the work, what encourages you about the work, what terrifies you about the work. Your job as the artist is to express that as effectively as you can. Get it out so that if you're a writer and I read those words, I feel exactly what you felt when you wrote it. We're trying to take something ethereal, something like imagined and seen and felt, put it into language, have someone read that language, and then have that experience recreate within them. That's our job as an artist. And there's a ton of other reasons why I would suggest you take this perspective. But so when I'm talking to writers, I'm not telling them, yeah, your writing's good, your writing's bad. What did you want to get across here? It didn't come across. Let's talk about why. Or at least I didn't think. What did you guys think? Talk to the rest of the group. Nope, didn't come across. All right, let's look at the word choice. Let's look at how can we speed this up a little bit? Can we shorten up the sentences? Can we get a little more action going on? Can we drive the story quicker? And so you can put the editor hat on, but you're not putting it on to tell them whether their story's good or not, because that's just going to feed that perfectionist. Because then it's like, oh, you're good or not. We're going to take it in that way and on some level, and it absolutely shuts people down 10 out of 10 times. But if I ask you what you want, what you intended, and then we talk about what you intended and whether you did or did not, you want to know if you didn't. Because you're like, oh my gosh, this has to get across. Let's fix that. How do we do it? And then you want to learn, and then you want to grow. And it's not even a stumble at that point. It's just like a course corrector, like you've like taken a little bit of extra clay off the statue to make it even better. And so how do you do both? Well, you honor the writing process, and then when you edit, you're still honoring what was trying to be created. And like there's no room for ego or your self-worth or your self-value. And you're making the most original revolutionary art. That's what Rick Rubin would say. You make revolutionary art by just tapping into you and completely you. If you're listening to other people like, oh, it should be this, or this is the most popular genre right now, that compass that was on your inside experience that you wanted to express is completely off course. And yeah, you still might make something great, but it's not going to be that truly original, one-of-a-kind piece that is yours. And if you want to be an author who's not just writing one great book, but a body of work, which is another huge reframe, we're not here to make just one great thing. What's more repeatable than you going into your own well of inspiration, curiosity, passion, courage, and just that's what you listen to, and you make it. And the readers who resonate with that, who need to hear that, they're going to find it. And then you don't have to sit there and be like, oh gosh, how do I one up that last one? Or like, how do I write something that group's going to like again? No, you just go inside and rewrite again from what you felt inspired to write. And you can do this all day long. So it's fun to create and it's fun to share.
What is your relationship like with your inner critic right now?
Like in this moment or life in general?
Life in general. Like, have you conquered it?
Yeah, it's no. Just like if I try and sprint in the water, I'm gonna face resistance. I'm gonna slow down. In every new step of my personal journey with my business, as a father, as a husband, as a writer myself, every time I go somewhere new, there's a new level of inner critic waiting. We don't get to escape that in this life, I don't believe. But I'll tell you this, I catch it quicker. And I actually pat myself on the back if I'm quick enough. Like, oh man, this is important. And then I go focus on my dream again. What's my intention here? I want to write something badass today. I'm gonna write something that I think is badass today. Or I want to have a great interview with Nadia today. And so I'm gonna go in there and just heart open, mind open, and just pour it on the table with her. And so it gets much easier. It actually is quite reassuring, but it's never. You can't let your foot off the gas. Like. I go into this like I'm putting a book together on the subject, but the power of our conscious focus, like where we are right now, what our light of consciousness, like your attention, what your attention's on, is so bloody powerful and important. And if people knew what they were creating or what they were losing by just based upon what they're choosing to ruminate on and focus on, it's a big thing to learn, I would say. And the inner critic, as most of us know, it wants you to think about it. You know, like, why isn't this good enough? Or like, oh, what's wrong with this piece? Why isn't anybody liking it? And you ask that question, and your mind is going to find the answers for it. And so even like the questions that we ask are so important. I can ask, why can't, like, if I'm stuck in my story, say, or I'm stuck in a problem with my spouse, okay, this is across the board. This is not just writing. I can sit there and say, what's wrong with me? Why am I not figuring out this story? Why can't I make amends with my wife? My brain's going to give me, my brain, conscious, whatever it is, I'm going to get answers to that question. I'm going to find reasons why I'm less, why I can't. And then the more I focus on that, the more I'm going to think that's real. That's more of the story I'm telling myself. How the heck am I going to write if I keep piling all these boulders on myself? But if I ask, what would be fun for me and my spouse to do today? What would be really interesting for my character to do? Or you know what would be a really sad, I feel like I want something sad in my story. What would be really sad? What's something sad that could happen? Then I just sit there and wait. It's going to show. And again, this goes back to that creating versus editing hats, right? If anything that you want, sorry, I am kind of talking in circles, but it's interesting how it's all connected.
Ask the right question.
Yes.
So much insight here, Trevor. Thank you so much for your time today.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Trevor Martins is a former high school teacher. He's a writing coach and founder of I Help You Write Things.
Oh, can I mention my newsletter?
Yes, please.
I have a free newsletter that comes out every Thursday. You can get it on my website, ihelpyourwritethings.com/newsletter. And I talk everything from the writing process to mindset, like Nadia and I just talked, little prompts, and it's completely free. So it's just my way of getting this stuff out there.
ihelpyourwritethings.com.
Yeah.
Trevor, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Nadia.